hopefully the last part in the Serpentine V8 softdash Range Rover head gasket replacement. It's been a saga. Before we get into the feature, can you check you're subscribed? Even if you think you are, just double check please. The channel is performing, I'm happy with it. If you're not subscribed, why ever not, please consider. Hit the old thumbs up, hit the thumbs down if you must, comment down below. All these things help those algorithms. You want to contact me, Church House Classics, and that's all one word, at gmail.com. Only one of me. I will do my best to get back to you as quickly as I possibly can. I will always get back to you. If you want to support the channel, and all donations are gratefully received, then it's a PayPal me link scrolling down here. Both email and PayPal me link are in the description below this feature. Enjoy. There's a spoiler in this image. There is a spoiler. There you go. Hey, it's time to de-blancmange this thing. Get all this blancmange or strawberry milkshake out of it. As you can see, I've removed the faulty radiator. We're going to go over that in a second, but first and foremost, I had a right bastard getting this top connector off here. And the reason I had a right bastard getting this top connector off here is because the union started to turn in the radiator. Now, what's interesting here, that's icing there, look at that. What's interesting here is it's given me an opportunity to look inside, and I threw this thing because it just did my fucking head in. So this is the oil cooler side of the radiator. That's the union that fits on there, and there's a big fat washer on the inside, brass washer on the inside, and a nut on the outside. What basically happened, basically, as I was trying to undo the big nut here, the 24mm nut that secures the pipe, it started to rotate, and I thought, well, we're kind of catch-22 at this point. We're not going to be able to do anything with it at all. But look at the thickness of the oil, of the metal, the brass, between the oil cell, which is that bit there, and the coolant cell, which goes around it. So this is fucking terrible, I'll be honest. Now, I am going to pull the other end of this radiator off, so I'm going to undo the 4 fixings and see if we can't get this header tank off this end, and see where we failed. Because it has definitely failed, which is why all the pink shite is in there. But you really don't want to be putting these things on, I'll be honest, folks. I don't think Range Rover Classic ever used a plastic radiator in its production. So quite why we think that this is suitable now, I couldn't tell you. So yeah, I'm going to get this end cap off. It'll need... I might need to just run an angle grinder down the metal strip here. This is all scrap anyway. Run an angle grinder along so I can get the cap, the end cap off. So let me do that now. Woohoo! Thing. Piece of shit. Right, strip over the cable. It's going to make a flipping great mess, isn't it? Well, there's a flipping great mess already. There's not a lot I can really do about it, is there? There we are. Tank comes away. There we are, there's the end tank. I couldn't tell you where that's gone. Right, there's a lot of shit in there. So there's the end of the matrix, and what I found, traditionally I found these have failed around where this gasket is, because the aluminium constant rate of expanding and cooling down on this aluminium clamp on the end that I've just cut through fails. Well, in this case, that hasn't failed. What has failed, though, this thing's going to go in the dustbin, I'm afraid, because it's just chucking this fucking glue shit all over the place. So what effectively happens, you've got this tube in here, which should be sealed, or should have some way of sealing the ATF from the automatic gearbox, and clearly this has failed. So these two nuts here, these hold, I might go and get a decent wrench, these hold the matrix to the that's undone. That reasonably tight. I'll take that nut off there. I'll take the whole tube out then, out of the plastic end cap. Grubby. I'm going to put some degreaser down here. Then I've still got to clear the entire cooling system out. Right, there we are, there's that one. I'm going to take this one off as well. So neither of these was loose. So it's not like it has failed in the same way that I just showed you the oil side had failed. And I've got a different problem with the oil side now as well, which is even more distressing. So this comes off. I told you I had that seized fixing. This whole plastic end cap and these whole nuts holding these delicate cells onto the end is just the most stupid idea I think I've ever seen. And I think it's all a big conspiracy, possibly, against whoever made this radiator. Couldn't tell you. And because I don't know where it came from. It was on the car when the customer bought it 4 years ago, but then it's done barely any flipping miles since, because the car's constantly been needing attention. Could actually get a decent spanner, Richard, couldn't you? But then that would be no fun at all. Oh, this should come off. It's coming off. I don't know what I was saying just then. Yes, sorry. So it could well be that the manufacturer wants you to buy a new car rather than continue to repair your old one, which is why junk like this ends up being put in place. Now, once this is off, I'll be able to extract intact the cell. Fucking thing. Right, here it comes. Right, so. Okay. So it looks like it's a tube within a tube. And I honestly couldn't tell you where that has failed. But it's the only other place oil could have come from. This oil. The gearbox is empty. And the radiator is full of this pink shit. So this is the only place where it could have failed. Now, unfortunately, my water supply has frozen up solid today, so I can't even do that properly. Lob all this lot in here. I'm going to have to give this thing a clean up, and then perhaps put some boiling water in it and see where it goes. And then the other challenge I've got, these are the oil pipes that I was having the struggle with, this top one specifically. You can see where I gripped it there in order to get it off. However, what's actually happened now, you can see it's rotating there on the union with the rubber pipe. I don't think that's healthy. I think that's going to end up in an oil leak, engine oil leak. And we don't need that, do we? Is the other one the same? A little bit. These are probably, you can see here how much. You see that rotating? You see the rubber pipe here is rigid and the flexi line is not. So we've got another challenge there. You can see how to get the map gas out, try and heat the nut up. That's why I took the battery out, because I didn't want the map gas near the battery. Got to play safely, folks. You've got to play safely. Right, so, just going on about this header tank. So exactly the same as has happened at this end here. The header tank is held onto the end of the matrix by this clamped rail and a gasket. And the idea is they just pinch this together, and it's supposed to hold this header tank tight against the radiator. And probably would have done when the thing was brand spanking new. No real issues there at all. And then these little cells in here, through which oil, engine oil on this side and automatic transmission fluid on the other side run, are connected to the outside world via these stubs, which were part of the mechanism here. Now, because I struggled with this top one to get it off, I put some heat in it. You can see I melted the plastic end cap on the radiator. It just tore it off. Now, I've tried the... Let's go inside again with the map gas. Oh my goodness, that we're in. Kettle's boiling over there. I managed to get my water supply unfrozen. Map gas, you've got to love it. Right, let's get the tripod sorted out. And, oh dear. It's warmer today. So, let's put water in one end of this matrix really, really, really carefully. Right, now, that's full. The level's dropping at this end. And it's pouring down the inside of the tube. Oh, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is under atmospheric pressure as well, so you can imagine the struggles that this would have had. That's going to be quite warm. That is quite warm. Probably could have done this with cold water, Richard. I'm not sure if it's gone on the underside of this flange here, where it goes into the tube, or whether it's actually gone where the tube joins the inner and the outer tube is kind of crimped on this end. Because there's two tubes, it's one inside the other. The fluid is definitely going somewhere though. I think it's going down here. I think that's where it's gone, underneath there. So what's effectively happened then is the action of doing up the hydraulic pipes. I don't do them up horrifically tight, folks. There's no ring in there for good reason. I think the action of doing the pipe up, and even though those nuts were tight, it's just very, very, very slightly twisted this union here on the tube, which was fine up until a point, because when I first started the car up and drove it out of the workshop, no problems at all. It's only after about 20 minutes of running at a reasonably high RPM in park, but we're not going berserk. We were running at a 2000 RPM in park, which is probably not ideal, I know, but at that point the pressure managed to cause this cell to fail, and then the automatic gearbox fluid that runs through this cell then pressurised the cooling system, which is why all of a sudden the cooling system went dive in that. So there you go. Now I would imagine that the metal radiators probably have a very similar arrangement as far as a tube within a tube that's fixed into the body of the radiator. I think the massive difference is that the output is then not held to the plastic end cap, because it's not plastic, it's copper. I think it's all then soldered in. It becomes a much stronger union. Whereas in this case, it's highly likely that the process of, you can see here, it is coming down the inside. Can you see that, folks? Let me get the torch. So under atmospheric pressure, there's your leak, and it is more or less this end. Not quite on the end. It's about here. So everything I just said about those nuts, in this case, is bollocks. There you go. So it's leaking somewhere. Something's failed in between the outer tube and the inner tube. Now I did notice on this thing just now, there is a date. Let me just tip this out. 1 second. It's nice and warm. Let's tip it into my dustbin here. There we are. There's a date on the underside of it. It's like 2009. But yeah, that's not ideal really, is it? I think when it comes to one of these things, you really don't kind of want it leaking, and it is very clearly down the inside there. Right, well that's going in the scrap bin. I like it when I find root cause of a problem. I like also to understand why the problems occurred. And I don't like, I've never liked these plastic radiators, because, as I say, the main problem I've had before is that the coolant cell fails where the plastic end cap is clamped onto the plastic end cap. The plastic end cap is clamped onto the radiator matrix. And I've had them fail there. And this one also was showing signs of failure at the automatic gearbox end on the matrix anyway. So again, bag of shite. There's Dale's camshaft down there as well, look. So yeah, crock of shite, I'm afraid, folks. There really isn't an awful lot we can do about that. Now, what I am going to have to do with this car, unfortunately, is I'm going to have to find another one of these pipes, or get this off and recrimp it, which is a pain in the bollocks. Really wasn't anticipating having to do that. I'm also going to need to get all of the pipes off. Now, I had already committed to replacing all of the coolant pipes. Everything on this car is ancient, and as you will recall from an earlier episode, when I was taking the heater pipes off that go from the engine water pump to the heater and then round to the evaporator for the LPG, that the pipes were they were falling apart. I've also got an opportunity here to replace this bottom hose, which wasn't going to fit onto the plastic radiator, but I got a brand spanking new hose in the car. I bought the brand spanking new hose already, and there it is, but it didn't fit onto the plastic radiator stuff for some reason. But it'll fit onto this other one. Right. I'm going to, because we've not got much light left now. What time are we now? We are... So we've probably got half an hour of light, so I'm going to see if I can get some of these hoses off, get this engine prepared really, so I can start to flush everything through, and tidy up the mess, which really shouldn't have happened, but has happened. Never mind. And radiator is back in. So this is a brand spanking new Britpart sourced, metal end capped, copper cord radiator. I believe it's copper cord. But certainly the end caps are metal rather than that cheap nasty plastic shit, which is great, and that's the part number for it. So Echo Sierra Romeo Echo Sierra Romeo 74, and it is for, if you look at that part number, it's for Range Rover 3.9 V8 automatic from GA suffix up to JA suffix, if I remember correctly. I can't find any logical reason why this will not fit, and it is in, and all of the connections fit. So the oil warmer cooler fits, the automatic gearbox fits, the pipes fit, everything lines up absolutely beautifully on it. And the only concern I possibly had about it was getting the clips, because these are the clips that would have secured the radiator to, sorry, the fan cowl to the radiator. And all I have to do is take that little bit off there, take that hoop off, because I've already put one in there. You can see on the inside edge of that, I've knocked it off. So I'm just going to Dremel that little hoop off the top edge there, and then that will go down in there and hold the radiator matrix in. The only reason you need to do that is if I get my torch, there's torch, better organised than we are usually, Richard. If I get my torch and position that there, see, look, oh, it's metal. They're metal, but probably copper. If I was to push that down, you could see how that is probably, or it might actually go down. It didn't want to go down on this side. Give me 1 second. You can observe from right there. Oh, it did go down. So you don't need to Dremel it at all. Well, one of them was cut anyway, so I figured that I just have to cut the other one. Now, that cowl is absolutely rock solid in there, and we're well clear of the fan, so the cowl is located exactly as I would want it to be. I changed the timing belt tensioner. You remember the timing belt was hanging over the forward edge. Well, it ain't anymore, so that's a bog standard and factory original OE quality. If OE quality is available, folks, buy OE quality. Don't be tempted by cheap shite. So in this particular case, we're talking about ERR3440G. Typically when the G is on the end there, it means OE quality, but a company like Dayco, I would generally trust. That's the old one in there because the customer wanted to keep that. There's nothing wrong with the body on the other one, and to be honest, I think it's possibly that the bearing's just been put in, or it's the wrong spec bearing that's gone in there. I've not run the engine up yet, but I've cranked it over a couple of times and the belt stayed in the middle, whereas on the other unit, when I cranked the engine over a couple of times, it just came about 2 or 3 mil off the forward face each time. Possibly because the bearing's shot, I don't know. It could well just be because the bearing's shot and it's walking its way towards the edge. Could be absolutely nothing wrong with it other than a shot bearing. What else have we done? Oh, the royal we replaced the top oil cooler hose. So if you remember rightly, I had an issue with this. Let me go and stand you on the bonnet of the Disco. I had a problem with this in that, and this end was turning as well. That end turns as well. So it's not really going to help it keep oil inside, and I suspect that's probably why there is quite so much oil down the outside of this engine as there was, because it's kind of dripping out and then getting sprayed around by the engine cooling fan, possibly, I don't know. What else we've got to do? I've got a couple of cooling hoses to replace. Bottom hose now is a new one. That's the one that came off, which didn't fit onto, well, the new version of that didn't fit onto the radiator properly, so that's now been replaced, brand spanking new one. A couple of other hoses, bits and bobs, and next I need to change the centre and rear sections of the exhaust, because the centre section and rear section are that far away from the mounts. I think that they were designed to go with that, how can I put it nicely? I'm not going to swear, the 4-into-1 branch manifold, tubular manifold system that I took off this car. I haven't got a video of me taking it off because I did that when it was down at the customer's site. But we've gone back to cast manifolds, cat Y pipe, because this car is a 1995, late 95, early 96 car, and it really does need cats in order to run cleanly. And I think this thing will run cleanly now. It's going to hopefully sail through MOT testing. What with it no longer being a V6, it's now a V8. We have sorted out ignition and ignition timing. I don't think that was too much of an issue. Exhaust is now sorting out, so it's not leaking. The correct tune resistor is in there. So I am going to lob this in for an MOT and see what happens. Not even running LPG. It's going to be running petrol. Yes. It's unlucky, really, isn't it? I mean, okay, the head gasket was a pain in the backside. I think had the exhaust manifold bolts not broken, I would have carried on just by putting the cast manifolds on and running it like that. However, it was definitely blown, as you've seen on 2 sides, and also the camshaft was absolutely shagged. I mean, one definite round lobe and another lobe that was not entirely happy. It well past its first flush. So on that basis, I reckon we're going to be good. Now, what I do need to do is the vacuum pipe on this, I think is a bit on the short side. What I might try and do is just, if I put a zip tie around the vacuum advance there, not tight, but just to hold the vacuum pipe in that direction rather than if it's to go around over there, I mean, it's not, I suppose I can push it onto, but it's just fallen off. Oh, well, that's split as well. Perhaps I'll treat it to another vacuum advance pipe. Perhaps I'll treat it to another one, because that is fucked. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We are where we are. Right, and you can see there's a heater hose off at the back there, so I need to connect that back up to this rail. I need to put the air bleed pipe back on. Goes to the top of the radiator there. Get that back on, and then fill it up and start it. And confirm that I don't think it got hot. I mean, as soon as it kind of did its pink blancmange thing, or whatever, strawberry milkshake thing, as soon as it did that, I switched off, and the temperature gauge didn't increase in temperature, and it's had coolant in that engine. The coolant stayed in there while it was cooling down. It's just that that coolant was a hearty, probably 50% mix of automatic transmission fluid, which reminds me I've got to top the gearbox up as well. It's moved. It's the other way round. So gearbox took 4 litres of ATF. So 4 litres of ATF relocated itself into the cooling system. There's a tap, which I'm annoyed about. So I'm going to try first and foremost with the hydraulic tappet kind of shims. I think it's on the left-hand bank, passenger side bank over there. It's just a tap. Annoying. I'll soon have it fixed. I'll go through the clearances again and just see if I can work out, maybe go for a thinner shim and see if that fixes it. The belt adjuster, or the tensioner down there, is running as true as you like. So that's beautiful. I've been up the road, it goes like stink. It really does. It's amazing how much more grunt you get out of it when it's a V8 rather than a V6. But yeah, temperature's all nice and stable. There's no pressurising in the cooling system. It's working beautifully. So I'm going to book it in for an MOT now and get it back together again. And then Dale can have it back, which would be nice, wouldn't it? Right, the MOT is booked. I managed to hook the exhaust back up. So the original exhaust, got the rear rubber, was a long shadow. Got the, very easily distracted today, Richard. Got the exhaust hooked back on the back rubber. I need to give this thing a bloody good wash. Sent 2 centre sections. Now, I think because this was a sport system from front to back, the 2 hangers on the main centre dustbin are too close to the chassis hangers. So rather than scrap stainless middle and rear sections and replace them with mild steel, I held them together with Jubilee clips. Anyway, it works. It's not going to fall off. It is solid. There's enough movement in there to allow movement on it, but it's not going to rattle, it's not going to cause any problems at all. Now, I have had some challenges, because of course this is this is 96, this one. So yeah, we're coming up for 30 years old. 30-year-old Land Rover, who would have thought you'd have problems with it? Only minor problems. Now, the issue I had was, I've had a long-running issue with this lock on this door. I replaced the handle because the mechanism inside the key mechanism broke. So I replaced that. Central locking wouldn't work. Oh, right, what's going on with the central locking? And then a couple of days ago, faffing around, I managed to find out the central locking worked if I used the key on this door. Well, there's a little section on the top of the door lock itself, which indicates to the alarm what's actually going on, and that's then controlled by an ECU. You're like dead there, Dale. It's controlled by an ECU. So I had it all working. I had the fob working, so I was standing up by the gate over here, over by my disco, and it was locking and unlocking beautifully, but it would not unlock or lock the central locking on the driver's door key. I swapped over the solenoids, I swapped over the locks, I swapped over the handles, I moved all the electrics from one side to the other. The problem stayed with this side, so I just put it down to there's an anomaly in the loom somewhere. Now, the other issue I've kind of got with this car, I would have expected the alarm button to be up there, but clearly that's a delete. So the alarm light has never been there, and they moved the alarm light to here, which led me to believe it was an aftermarket system, but it's not. So it must be the very, very, very last of the Range Rover Classic soft dashes. They moved the alarm light from there to there. In fact, if I go to my disco, let's take a wander over here. Let's go out to the works truck. I still need to do some work on this, but it's behaving. I'll do a review on it. This is 95. Look, there's the alarm lights. Shut nicely. Right. Okay, so I figured then, well, what's going on? It works, it locks and it unlocks, and then of course the next day I came in, wouldn't unlock at all. It just would not unlock. It wasn't doing anything. I couldn't disable the alarm. So I thought, right, what on earth is going on here? It would not disable. So then I thought, it's got to be something to do with the alarm box. That didn't shut nicely, but it did the second time round. So let's go and look at the alarm box. Right, and here is the alarm box. It's a fairly standard unit. It's used on all of the later Range Rover Classics, soft dashes certainly, and the Discos. There's a different style of box used on the hard dash Range Rovers. But you can see this is dated 693. So this could well have been used also on the hard dash. I don't know. Anyway, that's its partner bar, AMR2106. That's its frequency, which is important because the frequency will link itself to the fob. Okay? Different frequencies. Now, these things are dead easy to get apart. A bit like the one lift window ECU. There's a load of tangs all the way around the outside. So I've already taken the bottom off this. Now, you can see that's actually looking quite perilous, isn't it, really? So I'll insert a photograph here of what I saw when I first opened it up. Yeah. Right, so full of water and a lot of rust along this bottom edge. This can come 8. Now, it all looks relatively intact, but my concern, once I cleaned all this area up down here with contact cleaner, is that there is a big old blob there. Now, I'll take a picture and I will show you what that looks like when it's zoomed in. Yeah, so that's going to be a problem. I'm going to see if I can repair it, literally just by soldering wires from the various pins to bypass the track that's burnt out there. Or the alternative is I get another AMR2106 and I code the fobs to it. Now, this, unfortunately, it controls both the alarm, the car's alarm, and also the central locking. So why has it happened? I'll tell you why it's happened. Let's go back to the car. So what you do is you undo, there's a nut, 13mm nut on the underside of the dash up here on my finger. And what you do is you undo that nut, and then this relay panel swings down and the alarm unit is bolted to the side of it where that nut is there. This chappy is right up and underneath it. In fact, you can see some indentations where the alarm unit and everything was sitting. Now, I took this out and I dried it out in the sun, but that was absolutely, and not a little bit, dripping wet. Now, you can see we've had some rain, storm anus or whatever, blew over last night, and yeah, car's filling up with water. So this is, unfortunately, is the standard for the unrestored Range Rover Classic soft dash. They leak. Oh, I've had a look around the inside of the bulkhead, specifically in this area up here. So the bulkhead side panel, and it has got holes through it. Now, I've redirected the sunroof drain to go backwards and down here. In fact, you can see the end of the pipe in there. It's going down the outside edge of the door. I can't see any other way that might be directed better, but there's certainly water getting into the car. Right, so I think all we can really do is lob it back together, make a repair to the alarm box if we can. If we can't get the alarm box repaired, then what we need to do, I think, is either work on a manual locking system. Look at the spider's web in there. That's a beauty. Car's been sitting around for a long time. Work on the non-alarm, non-central locking version of this particular model, which is less than favourable. I don't like taking security systems out, even though the security system on this thing is about the easiest thing to bypass ever. Well, it passed its MOT. Not a clean sheet by any means, but it passed. Emissions sailed through, which is really encouraging. I think the engine is certainly tired. It's done nearly 200,000 miles. Oil pressure light takes a little bit longer to go out than a brand spanking new engine, but it works. It does work. Oil pressure's good on it. It runs beautifully. I've been out for a test drive today because the car's taxed. The customer's been able to tax the car beginning of February now. Yeah, took it out for a ride. A couple of little teething niggles. Kickdown cable needed adjusting, and even though the kickdown cable was kind of on its last thread, I kind of built it up to exactly the same length. Now that kickdown cable must have been about 4 miles out. So I've adjusted that, smooth as you like now, works beautifully. Adjusted the throttle cable, but then of course all the plenum and everything came off, so that responds nicely. Yeah, the car's working. And it just goes to show that even the simplest of jobs, like changing the exhaust, can end up with a complete top-end overhaul and a new radiator. God, who'd have thought it, eh? And I think the majority of the problems really have been down to quality of reproduction parts here. Discuss. I think we probably need an episode in its entirety about reproduction parts, quality upgrades, improvements with an asterisk at the end of it. And yeah, but we are where we are with it. I hope you enjoyed the series. It's been fun making it.